key looks good. Nothing else is in the way. My shirt is tucked down. Hair is good. Okay, and let's get started. Auto Obsessed here. If you follow our channel or you visit our facility here, you've probably seen this car. In many ways, this Lamborghini Gallardo is the heartbeat of Auto Obsessed, and it served as a test mill for many detailing products, including the Obsessed product line. And it's become an unofficial mascot for our company. Usually we do detailing videos here on products, tools, and techniques, but this car is so special to us. It means a lot to me personally, and I thought we'd share a story about my 16 years of Lamborghini Gallardo ownership, talk about how I originally got the car, how we've used it at Auto Obsessed, the pros, the cons of the Gallardo Spyder, maintenance, and plans for the future. So for all of you Gallardo fans out there, or for anyone that has a special car in their lives, this one's for you. This is absolutely a perfect day to enjoy a convertible. Beautiful sunny day. It's fall in sunny Alberta. The trees have started to change colors. What a better way to spend the day. So this is a 2006 Lamborghini Gallardo Spyder. This is an early build car. It was built in 2005, and according to my research, there was only 25 built in the year 2005. It's a model year 2006. Only 25 were built. There were just over 1,000 2006 model year Gallardo Spyders built. Total production of all Gallardos in 560 is just over 14,000 cars. This car is actually the first Lamborghini Gallardo Spyder to enter Canada. So it's the #1 Spyder in Canada. And this exact car I also had signed personally by Valentino Balboni. The Gallardo, I believe, is a turning point for Lamborghini. Some people might disagree, but it's when Audi was in ownership of the company, and the Gallardo is its first actual, from beginning, production car. And it's quite noticeable that, you know, there's some influence from the Audi group in the car. The fit and finish, more mass produced. As I mentioned, they built just over 14,000 cars over its 9-year span from 04 to 2013. A lot of the components, and especially in the engine compartment, a lot of them share from the Audi group, which is, I think, a positive thing, because you get some of the things that, you know, a small production company like Lamborghini just wasn't able to offer. So one of the biggest things is, again, I feel the fit and finish. So you look at the car on the inside, and all the leather work's beautiful. Italians, of course, have always been known for their beautiful leather work. This car is no exception. It has all the electronics, also a lot of options. So for example, a Murcielago, so the two cars that were available when I purchased this car was the Gallardo and the Murcielago. And the Murcielago, for options, for example, there really wasn't a lot. You pretty much just had power windows, air conditioning, a stereo, and a lifting system. Other than that, that was really about it. Everything else was, you know, very basic. You didn't get some of the things that the later cars got, or the influence of Audi in the Audi group in the Gallardo. So for example, this car has pretty much all the main options you would expect in a car. It has, you know, it lacks a few other things, but for the most part, it has everything that you would actually want to properly drive a car and enjoy the car. So this car has, and actually we'll step back a sec. So option wise, this is one of the most option cars. It has almost every option that was available in the 2006 model year in the Gallardo. So this car has upgraded stereo and full navigation system. It has the backup camera, the navigation system, quite straightforward. This controller as well, it's right out of, I believe, an A8 Audi. So most of it's the same, but it's been reprogrammed for Lamborghini specific stuff. So it's got a beautiful navigation system. It has a backup camera that obviously engages when you put it in reverse as well. It does have this button. So as you're driving, you can look at the rear view camera. I think that should be in all cars actually. Sometimes you do want to look behind you, you know, when you're not in reverse. The climate control system is right out of an Audi, I believe an A8 as well. So it's got your passenger and driver controls, very similar to what you'd find in, you know, the cars at that time and even some modern cars. So we have all the controls here. This car also has the optional power seats and heated seats. So those controls are on here. The heating system in this car is unbelievable. Like, it's like a, I don't know, a jet engine furnace. I mean, it is crazy. Heating's unbelievable. The air conditioning is very, very good. It's it is a convertible car, so it's probably why the air conditioning maybe is a little bit lower than what I would hope, but it's still very, very good. I've driven this car on events through 40-degree weather, so over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it keeps up reasonably well. If the top's down, of course, you're not going to be able to maintain that. If the top's up, it's good. It's not great because it is a canvas top. It's not insulated. It does have a headliner, but it's not perfectly insulated. So I think that's likely why. This car also has power electric mirrors, so you can fold the mirrors and tilt them. It also has some options. So the coming home option, that option is the garage door opener up here by the rearview mirror. So you can program your home garage up to 3 doors, and you can open and close the doors with that, which is a nice function. Another option this car has is the travel package. So I joke with people, it's my $900 Canadian cup holder. So behind me here is a cup holder. The other cars did not have that. You couldn't get a cup holder in a Murcielago, a Diablo, or a Countach, of course. But this car, it was an option. Along with the travel package, you got on the passenger footwell, there's a netting, and it's a map pocket basically. So for $900 Canadian, you could get the cup holder and the map holder. It's kind of an awkward thing, so I'll just show you here. So essentially, just how do you grab your cup out of that holder? So you have to do this real awkward kind of motion to get your cup holder, or I usually go underneath my other arm and grab it. If the passenger's in the car, then I'm gonna get them to pass it to me because it's a super awkward position. A funny story about the cup holder. This was when the car was new. Was new. I hadn't had it for very long, and I had a bottle of Snapple in the cup holder, and that's when they were in the glass bottle, and it was sitting there. And I'm driving through the city, and it was a multi-lane road, and for some reason, this lady decided that she wanted to go from the far right lane into the far left lane, cut across like basically, I think it's 4 or 5 lanes of traffic. And she did one of these, like, crank the wheel. And all I see in my peripheral is this car coming right at my passenger door. So I slam on the brakes. Obviously, this car has incredible brakes. I slam on the brakes, and this Snapple launches out of the cup holder and goes flying into the dash and just misses the navigation screen. And I'm going, what? It didn't hit it. You know, good thing it did it. I mean, after that, I always thought, okay, that's why they always have cup holders in the console right up to the dash or against the dash. Who has a cup holder that's in between the seats? So naturally, yeah, it's going to be a missile. So for anybody that has one of these cars and you do have the optional cup holder, keep that in mind. Don't put anything in there unless you expect to come flying at the dash if you had to make a sudden stop. Again, luckily it didn't hit my navigation screen because it would have smashed it to pieces. It was a glass bottle, and luckily the lid was on the bottle. So kind of a funny story on the cup holder. Some other options. This car also has the perforated leather seats. So beautiful, beautiful leather seats. It's got the white piping, the white stitching. Kind of breaks up if it was just all solid black without the perforation. In the door panels, it's beautiful. If it didn't have that perforation, it wouldn't look as nice. It also has, you could have got 3 basic trim options. So you could have got the standard, which was painted, so it's a gray painted, and I have some of it in my near the e-brake here and on the door latch, so that's in the gray paint. So if the basic standard package, this console centerpiece here where the gated shifter would be or the e-gear controls would be, that would be painted, as well as the door handle would have been painted. An option was to get either the leather packages or the carbon fiber packages. So this car has the leather packages, so this is nicely wrapped in leather. The e-brake is wrapped in leather, and the door handle is wrapped in leather. It looks quite nice. It also has the branding package. To me, the branding package, I think, should be standard on all cars like this, but it is an option, and this car has it. So the branding package has the Lamborghini script on the dash. It has the gold logos on the headrests. It has the Lamborghini bowl embossed into the leather. On the door sills, instead of them being black plastic that say Gallardo, it's got the aluminum, brushed aluminum, beautiful looking aluminum sill plates that say Gallardo, and it also has the gold center caps with the Lamborghini logo. So the branding package is a nice option, and this car has that one as well. So in the 2006 model year, they had a few changes from the 04 and 05 cars. So one was the transmission. They have a shorter gear set in the 2006 cars. In the 2004, 2005 cars, they had a longer gear ratio. This car has standard lifting system. So the lifting system was standard in the 06 model year cars. And they also changed the exhaust system. A lot of people say, I agree with it, that the 06 cars had one of the nicest sounding exhaust systems. 04, 05 cars, basically everyone changed the exhaust because it didn't sound that good. The 06 cars have an adaptive system. When you accelerate the throttle to about 4,000 RPM, the valve opens up and changes the entire way the car sounds. So I'll do that again. So I'm just doing a gear down here. Okay, the exhaust valve is closed. So I'm just going along. I'm throttling the car. I'll increase the throttle. I mean, just music. Absolutely amazing. So no need, in my opinion, for the 06 cars to have a modified exhaust system. Also, with the exhaust system, with the rev matching. So on the e-gear transmission, we have the rev matching. Like, wow. Sounds absolutely incredible. So there's a few slight changes in the 06 model year cars. Also, another thing for the 06 model year, so this was the first year, as I mentioned, for the Spyders. So the Spyder was made under the Gallardo label for 06, 07, and 08. The coupe cars were 04, 05, 06, and 07, and then the 08 car was a 560. For the Spyders, the 09 car was a 560. One thing kind of weird that this car doesn't have, because it's a Spyder, the coupe cars had it. is the day-night mirror. It actually has the old style day-night mirror that you toggle with a switch, which is kind of goofy. The side mirrors, they are tinted, so they're a nice blue tint. You see those in some of the Audis, and they don't auto dim though, so that's kind of a little bit, you know, that would be a nice thing to have. Like the Audi cars, if someone comes up behind you and they have their high beams on, the mirrors will auto dim. So the review mirror plus the two side mirrors will auto dim. On the Lamborghini, they don't have auto dimming mirrors. Again, the coupe car had an auto dimming review mirror, but the Spyders didn't. Okay, so one thing with the Gallardos, and I don't know if that changed in the Huracan, to be honest, but these things turn like a battleship. So I'm gonna do a turn here. So in here, a normal car would easily be able to make this turn, but I'm never gonna be able to make this turn. And another thing with the E-Gear car, if you don't get that reverser just right, so there, I put it in. So you have to be at an absolute complete dead stop. So I'll do it again here. So we'll go forward. Now, if I don't come to an exact stop, now I can't. And then you're sitting here trying to get reverser. So this car, and I've actually got bugged quite a bit. You know, you're in a parking lot and Joe Blow bystander or Joe Jane bystander, they kind of throw comments and go, you know, where'd you learn how to drive? You know, because you're making these multiple turns. You're making these multiple turns and you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, this thing, crank to crank, the wheels barely turn. I mean, an SUV could U-turn this car all day long. So it's kind of funny sometimes in the parking lot, you know, you'll get someone go, well, you don't know how to drive, you know, you got a car like that, you don't know how to drive. Wow, I got 62,000 kilometers experience of the car. I actually have a pretty good understanding of how to park it. It's just a difficult car to turn because of the all-wheel drive in this particular version. I kind of describe it like a 4x4, and you got the front hubs locked. It kind of chatters when you're doing a really, really tight corner. You know, where a quad, when you lock the hubs and you're making a corner, it doesn't want to make the corner because the hubs are locked and the wheels aren't able to slip as much. It's a lot like that. Normal driving, like we just did through the residential as a test, normal driving, it makes all the corners just fine, right? Another thing too, it's just because of this, you know, it's a Lamborghini, it's very low to the ground, they're very wide. You can't see the front end at all on this car. I can see the windshield wipers and I can tell it's a white car just because of the edge of the hood, but that's it. You cannot see the front end at all. Even the seating position. So it's kind of funny, like I'm quite tall, I'm over 6'1", and if I were to put my arm on top of the door, it's kind of goofy. You feel like this little kid, like you sit super low in the car, so that makes it difficult for you to gauge your sides. The back of the car, it does have the backup camera that helps. These cars also have no sensors, so no front sensors, no back sensors. So you really have to watch. You have no idea where that front end is. So it's a couple things that you have to be aware of when you're driving the car. Once you get used to the dimensions, it's pretty good, but still, you know, it is, even after me driving it for the last 15 years, you know, it's still kind of difficult to tell exactly where the car is. So this car is also a 5-liter engine car. So it's not the 5.2 liter cars that you saw in the 560s and the Huracans that are using an Audi engine. This is actually a Lamborghini engine, and they were made from the 04 up until the 07 coupes and the 04 up until the 08 Spyders. So this is a 5-liter, 520 horsepower, around 376 foot-pounds of torque. It is quite different than the later model engines. So these engines are a lot more finicky. They throw a lot of code. Something in early ownership, I noticed that you have to have an OBD2 scanner. My closest dealership at the time was 1,200 kilometers away. So it wasn't something that you could just take it there and have them read. Again, these cars are prone to throwing codes. So I bought an OBD2 scanner right away, so I could contact the dealership and work with them on diagnosing some of the issues the car had, whether they were serious or not. So it throws a lot of codes. They're not serious, but it is something that you obviously have to have an understanding of to make sure that you can determine between a serious code and a non-serious code. This version car as well, they have what I'll call 3 systems. So you have your OBD2, which is a standard that every vehicle has to have, past I think 2001. They also use the VAGCOM system, so some of the Volkswagen Audi system, so some of the systems on board are read by VAGCOM. And then there's a number that are full proprietary to Lamborghini. So Lamborghini dealership or a Lamborghini service center would have to read it with their specialized Lamborghini computers. So such things as the airbags, the e-gear system, the convertible top. There's a number of things that you cannot read with other scanners unless you have one specifically built for the Lamborghinis and also certain model year cars. So I kind of call this engine configuration a hybrid. So it has a Lamborghini block. It absolutely has some Audi internals. So once again, it's a 5-liter engine in these cars up until 2008 in the Spyders. So the transmission, you could have 2 versions. You could have the manual transmission and you could have the e-gear transmission. So both of them use the same gearbox. So it's not a different transmission. So the manual transmission was the gated car, and it goes in this exact same place on the console. The e-gear cars use the same manual gearbox, but they had the automation portion added onto it. So the actuators, to shift the gears for you. So this car does not have a clutch pedal, and it has the 2 paddle shifters. So paddle shifter to go up and the paddle shifter to go down. So right now we're in normal mode. So I'll just demonstrate the normal mode. So the normal mode or default mode, when you turn on the car, it just automatically goes into this mode, and I've got full control on the transmission. So it's not gonna shift until I have it shift. So right now I'm in gear. I can manually downshift, and I can upshift. One thing this does have, it does have a bit of a safety. So if you do over rev, so if you do hit red line and you're in the default mode, it will actually automatically shift for you. So I'll just demonstrate that. We'll do a downshift. So we'll do a downshift here, and I'll just bring it up. So it did an automatic shift for me. Another thing too is the other modes of the transmission. So again, in this mode now, it's just going to stay in this gear now until I either come to a complete stop or until I redline, and it'll shift for me. There's 3 other modes on the transmission. We have sport mode, automatic mode, and a slippery condition mode. The sport mode allows me full control in the transmission, but there is something to take into consideration. So sport mode right off the bat, this is where you want to use to get the quickest shifts. So I'll just show you again in default mode and normal mode how quickly the car shifts. So we're going to do a downshift. I'm going to let it shift for me. Just listen to the gap when the engine cuts out until it re-engages on the shift. Here we go. So there's a little bit of hesitation there. You can see my head bob a little bit just as it decelerates just for a hair as the engine cuts out. And I'm actually shifting too. This is full throttle, right? Okay, now in sport mode, so I'm just gonna do the same thing. So now we're gonna switch over to sport mode. On the dash, it shows me sport mode. I'm gonna downshift. Okay, so now we have to shift, and I'll show you. So that was an instant shift. There was no hesitation whatsoever. It just went into gear. And I'll demonstrate that again here. So just listen for that hesitation between the gears. So I'll do a downshift here to bring up the RPMs. So one thing you really have to watch in sport mode on this generation, it will let you over rev the engine. It will not shift for you. So the software on this car will let you bounce off the rev limiter. So when you're in a higher RPM, this thing's gonna hit it hard, so you really have to pay attention. So right there, I shorted it just by a hair. We bounce in the rev limiter for a split second. So it will not shift for you. So I'll just demonstrate that again. So I'll downshift to bring up the RPMs. And again, just listen for that lag. It's really, really quick compared to the default mode. It's very, very quick. So we're gonna do a downshift. Okay, and here we go. So hits hard. So a couple things to note on this transmission. So we mentioned the sport mode. If you do not shift it before redline, it will bounce off the rev limiter. So it does not shift for you. Another thing on these cars is you can actually mechanically over rev the engine. And what I mean by that is it has a rev limiter that's electronic, meaning you're in throttle and you're bringing up the RPMs by throttle, it will cut your ignition out. But if you downshift this car and you're not paying attention to the RPMs and you downshift too much, you can actually mechanically over rev the engine and potentially blow the engine. Very similar to a manual transmission car where you go from, let's say, fifth gear and you accidentally downshift into second and let the clutch out. If you're not paying attention and put that clutch back in, you can mechanically over rev the engine. So that's something you really got to watch with the e-gear car. One of the best things with the e-gear is the rev matching. You know, I can't, you know, it just grins when you rev match. Like music. How can you not love that exhaust and the rev matching that the e-gear transmission does? Just awesome. When I was buying the car, I've always dreamed of purchasing a Lamborghini, and when it came down to finally making the decision, it was I could have chosen any Lamborghini. I could have had the Countach. Was my dream car. I wanted the Countach. At the time, the Countach prices were really, really respectful. In 07, when I bought this car, the Countach was about $95,000 Canadian. This car all optioned out was $360,000 Canadian. I always wanted a Countach, but honestly, it wasn't practical for me. The Countach made no sense whatsoever. I love the car, but I wanted something that was, you know, it was reasonably practical, that you could potentially almost daily drive the car. The maintenance on it was much more realistic. The drivability of it was better. And the Gallardo just seemed to be a better fit. I really, really wanted the Murcielago. The Murcielago, to me, is still one of the nicest looking cars that Lamborghini has built. But it's old technology. And, you know, another thing, too, is I wanted an open top. Like for days like this, it's such a beautiful day. You know, the wind in your hair, open top, the scenery, the sun. You know, I wanted an open top car, so the choice was a Murcielago Roadster or a Gallardo Spyder. And the price, you know, there is a pretty big price. I wanted the V12 engine. I wanted the scissor doors. That, to me, is Lamborghini through and through. But, you know, talking to my salesman, he's like, no, you know, like, the Gallardo's a better car. you know, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, to me it's a transition point as well. And you know, it kind of checked all those boxes. And one of the biggest things, two biggest things, but one of the biggest things was the convertible. So Lamborghini had never built a convertible production car before. The 06 was the first time in Lamborghini's history to build a production convertible. The Murcielago Roadster, for anybody that has seen the Roadster with the roof on, it doesn't look good at all. Second is, if you've ever had the opportunity to take the top off or put the top on, it is absolutely horrible. The best way to describe it is basically putting a tent together. You have to assemble this contraption with poles and canvas, and you have to do it all right and make adjustments. I mean, if you're good, you can do it in probably 9 minutes, but realistically, it's probably 25 minutes. Now, if you actually want to put that thing away, put it back in its bag and put it in the trunk, for one, it takes up almost all your trunk space, and that's if you put it in its bag. If you put it in its bag, you know, you have to be really good at it, and you have to kind of take apart a number of things. So it isn't realistic. This car, the top is like 22 seconds. It only takes 22 seconds to completely put it away, and in 22 seconds to completely close it. I don't have to do anything. It's all electronic. It rolls down the windows. It has the screws to latch the top. It rolls down the back window. It does everything. It's an absolute piece of art. So that was one of the biggest things. The next was mechanical. So on this car, a clutch change, you can do it with the engine in the car. So all the other Lamborghinis, the Murcielago, the Diablo, the Countach is engine out. The current Ventadors, it's also engine out. So, and also the price. You know, this car, a clutch, maybe $10,000 to $15,000. On the V12 cars, I mean, you can hit $25,000 pretty easily. They have to take the entire engine out of the car. So it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So when people ask me why did you pick the Gallardo, you know, those were the reasons. It wasn't so much price. Obviously, I wanted the doors and the V12, but this car has been a fantastic car. And I've got to say too, you know, from appearance, for convertibles, this car looks absolutely sexy with the top up and just as good with the top down. You can't even tell it's a convertible. Everything stows away, and it's just, it looks great. You don't have to do anything. Very reliable and very good. We'll put up the top here just to kind of demonstrate the sound of the car. So with the top up, so here's where I'm telling you. So the windows come down, the engine bay opens up. This has a full carbon fiber engine bay. The convertible top comes up. Then in a second here, it's going to do its latching. So it's going to latch to the top of the windshield. The little wings are going to come down here as well. So it latches the back deck. It latches the top here. And then if you leave the button held, it brings the windows up. So I'll just do this for demonstration on sound. So this is with the top up, windows up. So it's a V10 with a beautiful exhaust system, so you're of course still gonna hear it, but much nicer. The only thing is the room. So it's quite tight. I'm 6'1", so my head is touching the headliner right now. So there's a bit of a headliner and then the outer canvas roof, which has been good on days where I've done track events. So doing charity and doing light instructor-led track events, you got to slide down a little bit to get the helmet in, but still workable. I've done several events where you have to wear a helmet and have to have the convertible top closed. So it works out quite good. If you didn't have the optional power electric seats, then you cannot lower it as far as these ones go. So you will be sitting up higher. This one does have the power electric seats, so I can lower the seat much lower on this car. Another option that I absolutely love is on this convertible, and other convertibles in this age normally had a plastic window. This has a glass window, and here's a cool function. You can lower the window, and then I can hear the engine a lot better. How can you not want to have the window down the whole time, right? You can also adjust it so I can have it whatever height I want, and you can do this with the top up or the top down. Another feature that this car has, we talked about, were standard in the 06 cars, is it has the lift. So you just press this button here, it's going to indicate on the dash, so it's flashing on the dash. It's indicating that the car is raising. So if you watch the front there, you'll see in a moment here, I'm going to lower it. So this raises the car about 2.5 inches off of the front bumper, which is a lot of space to get over speed bumps, go up driveways, and any areas that you might have to lift the car. I'll lower it here now, so if you just watch the front, you'll see the car lower. So lowers quite a bit. Doesn't make any noise. It's all hydraulic. It has a safety function as well. So if you did forget to lower it at 70 kilometers an hour, it's going to automatically lower the car for you. And if you've driven one of these cars with a lift up, you'll find out pretty quickly that it rides horrible because it's at full extension of the shocks. So there's actually no movement at all. There's no travel at all on the shocks, and it rides horrible. Also, on this car, it steers kind of funny. So it's really hard to kind of make the corners when you're at full lift. I guess it probably just changes the camber of the wheels, and it's a bit harder to do it. So that's the lift system. Something that the earlier cars didn't have as standard. This is an optional. In Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, must have option. So we'll do the top again. Talk about a couple of the things with this car on the interior. Okay, so another thing with the convertible cars that was a little bit different than the coupes was because of the convertible top, this firewall or engine wall here is much closer. So on a coupe car, it actually had a fairly big space where you had customized luggage that fit there, and you could put quite a few things there. On this car, you can't even put your hand behind the seat. And another thing, like if you don't have your seat adjusted just right, you hear that? The leather rubs against the leather and makes this squeaking sound because it's so close. On the coupe, you don't have that problem. So I'm just going to adjust it back. So inside the car, there's really not a whole lot of luggage or space inside the cabin where you can put things. In the doors, there's just a small door pocket. Doesn't really hold a whole lot, maybe a cell phone and a couple little small things, a wallet. On the passenger compartment itself, as I mentioned, this has the travel package, so it has that little netting. You can put charging cords and a few other things. Again, not that much space. The glove box is just big enough for the owner's manual, basically, so it's quite small. It doesn't give you a lot of room. And on the driver's side, and I think it's actually part of the travel package as well, I don't think this is standard. On this car, there's a little hinge door. It's big enough to put a wallet and maybe your house keys. And in the driver's door, again, there's another pocket. So that's it for space. Under the hood, it's really bad as well. This car came with a CD changer. They took up a fair amount of the space. On the US cars, due to legislation, because there wasn't a frunk release or a front bonnet release, I'll call it a trunk release, inside the car, and potentially a child could go into the trunk and it could be closed and they could be stuck, and they didn't have that release handle. In the US market, they had to put this divider in, so even making the trunk more smaller as it is, and I don't know, it'd have to be a pretty small kid to go in there. The trunk's literally big enough for 2 small duffel bags. That's it. So very, very tiny trunk. If you're going on a road trip, you're gonna have to make sure that you plan ahead, minimize what you're going to be taking with you, because there's not a whole lot of space. Another thing too to note, in the passenger area, you can't even put a lot of things in the footwell, because the driver's side and passenger footwell are actually different depths, and you won't know this unless you sit in both seats. So the passenger footwell is built out another few inches because of the car electronics sit behind your feet. So even even thinking you can put some things by your feet, not a whole lot. So it's really, really tight. Rear engine car, none of the Gallardos had space in the back either, so pretty tight. It's one of those things that you just kind of live with. Kind of a funny story as well. In 2008, I had the privilege of attending the Lamborghini Giro, and that was where 50 Lamborghinis got together and did some touring of the United States. And that year we drove from Lake Tahoe to Monterey, and Lamborghini thought of everything, and they had rental trucks, these big 5-ton rental trucks, and they had to take our luggage from stop to stop. And it was kind of funny. So because you could only take your jacket sits in the front trunk, maybe a couple small things, you got your camera, this or that, you have no space. You could never possibly do a multi-day drive unless you just have a couple pairs of underwear and a toothbrush. So that's kind of the luggage space of the car. Another item this car has is the rear wing deploys by speed and lowers by speed. Comes up about a couple inches, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. So you just accelerate to speed, and then the wing will auto deploy. So the wing's auto deployed now. And then when you drop the speed down below, it's around the 70 km/h mark, then the wing will go back down again. Something to note about the wing, so there is no service position. So if you wanted to lift it up when you're washing the car, waxing, there's actually no way to lift the wing without having a Lamborghini computer do it for you. So you'd have to take it in to a Lamborghini dealership to lift it. There's no buttons and no controls in the car. The only other way, other than the Lamborghini service facility, would be you'd have to modify the electronics to it. I hope you enjoyed this video on this 2006 Lamborghini Gallardo Spyder and enjoyed this ride along with me on this amazing fall day. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification icon to be notified when we release new videos. We will be releasing more videos soon, so don't miss out. And thank you for watching.